G'day, and thanks for joining me for the Humble Choice Smash or Pass for May 2025. This is the series where I check out the offering of the Humble Choice bundle each month and compare reviews, value, and compatibility of each bundle. Will I smash the Choose Games button, or will I pass this time and hope for a better offering next month? My goal is to provide you with all the information you need to decide this for yourself, all in one place. Humble Choice is coming off one of its strongest months in recent history, with April's offerings all being generally very well received. But it's a new month now, so how will the current bundles stack up? Thankfully, all games this month are offered as Steam keys once again, so hopefully we have seen the end of the Origin key situation from previous months. However, this bundle also includes a handful of games I'd never even heard of before, so it's going to be an interesting one to dive into. And remember, if you do find this video useful and you want to see more, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps me out a ton. Thank you. The Thaumaturge is the first game on our list, and also the first game I'd never heard of before. This is a character-based and story-driven RPG set in a turbulent city. A detective game with a supernatural twist. You play as Victor, the titular Thaumaturge, who uses his mystical arts to read people's hearts and minds, and summon demons who can help you both in dialogue or combat. However, the use of your powers can have dire consequences for your character, leaving you with the choice of when and where to use your powers and potentially succumb to your inner demons. Released in 2024, the Thaumaturge is generally highly rated, with 82% very positive reviews. Its usual price is around $50 Australian, and it's $59 for this deluxe edition that you're getting in the bundle, so it's a good pickup if you're getting it through the bundle. The deluxe edition adds digital goodies such as an art book and a few in-game cosmetics, but nothing that will really change or enhance your gameplay experience. The game is also Steam Deck verified, ensuring a nice experience if you're playing on the go. Now, looking at the reviews, players seem to really appreciate the writing, story, and atmosphere of the game. The combat is well received, but is said to fall a little bit by the wayside, as the dialogue and decision making are the real stars of the show here. Conversely, most complaints seem to focus on the stability of the game, with crashes seemingly frustratingly frequent. Plus, the combat can feel a bit lackluster to some. To me, this is a nice one to check out when I'm bored or looking for something new to play, but it isn't something I'd be going out of my way to buy the bundle for, so I suppose I would consider this a pass. Up next is Amnesia: The Bunker. The 2023 entry into the Amnesia franchise brings you the usual intense first-person tension and horror. You navigate a labyrinth of underground hallways, scavenging what few supplies you can find to survive, all the while being stalked by a relentless horror from the darkness. If you enjoyed the previous Amnesia games, or just want to experience the stress of being hunted like the defenseless little human you are, this one might be for you. It boasts a 93% very positive rating on Steam, so it seems the developers' frictional games have not missed with this one. The going price is usually around $36 Australian, but can also be included in a couple of massive bundles containing frictional games' other entries if you are a super keen fan. The game is also Steam Deck verified, so you can easily take it into a well-lit room with a TV on if the tension gets a little bit too much for you. Reviewers give the game credit for being genuinely scary, noting it as a must-have for horror game fans. The general consensus is that this game takes the Amnesia franchise to the next level, with more focus on the gripping gameplay rather than the more story or lore-focused previous entries. Conversely, those who didn't enjoy the game so much seemingly found it to be a bit tedious and frustrating, managing your limited resources and spending so much time hidden away waiting for the monster to lose interest were two of the most prominent complaints I saw. I'm generally not a big fan of horror games, but even I'm tempted to give this one a try, as I absolutely loved Frictional Games' early series, Penumbra. And that brings us to Evil West. Have you ever thought to yourself, gee, the Wild West could use more vampires? Well, your prayers have been answered. Evil West is a third-person shoot-'em-up that supports both solo and co-op play. You engage in over-the-top explosive combat as you blast your way through the hordes of the vampire menace. This game screams power fantasy and has the style points to back it up. Although it was released back in 2022, it still sells for a whopping $80, making the bundle a very good value proposition if this is a must-have game for you. The game is listed as playable on the Steam Deck, but not verified, so your experience may vary. The game has a lifetime mostly positive rating of 74%, but that does seem to be trending upwards in more recent times, with the recent reviews being 81% positive. People seem to love it simply for what it is, a linear and uncomplex offering in which you travel from point A to point B, blasting everything in your path. The combat is said to be incredibly satisfying, with a huge range of weapons and upgrades to choose from. The common sentiment is that they don't make them like this anymore. But it's not all good news, as the more negative reviews reveal that the game is a bit clunky to play, suffering from being a relatively poor PC port, and it gets a little bit boring and stale as time goes on. Maybe a good deal for some, if this is the kind of game you love, but it doesn't really do much for me. Let's depart from the grim darkness of the last few games and get into the bright tropical setting of Shadow Gambit: The Cursed Crew. This one is a stealth-based strategy game in which you put together an undead crew and take to the sea, exploring the world for a legendary pirate artifact. Did I mention your ship is a ghost ship? Yeah, this sneaky pirate romp also features fantasy RPG elements as well. You travel to a range of different islands, traversing across ships to beaches and grottos, while you develop your character with new and flashy skills and abilities to achieve your goals. Shadow Gambit was released in 2023 and currently sells on Steam for about $60 Australian. There is also a bundle available that bundles up all the DLCs, expansions and bonus content for roughly $85. The game is Steam Deck verified as well, and looks like it could be quite fun to play on the go. The game boasts a lifetime very positive rating of 92% on Steam, proving to be widely well regarded, which is no surprise considering it was developed by the now sadly defunct Me Games, which also created the other highly rated stealth and strategy franchises such as Desperados and Shadow Tactics. Reviewers praise the polish and design of the game, and the general consensus is that it makes for a pure, good, fun experience. Conversely, some players found that the game got old a little bit fast, and most generally agree that it fails to live up to the studio's previous titles, which are very highly regarded by critics and players alike. I'm a big fan of this style of game, and this one sounds like it's worth the price of admission alone. Up next is Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. This is another game I was not at all familiar with until this bundle. Eiyuden Chronicle is a modern adaptation of the JRPG, featuring the stylish 2.5D sprites on 3D backgrounds that the likes of Octopath Traveler popularised. The gimmick here, as the title suggests, is that you have over 100 playable heroes to choose from to join you on your journey. The art style and character design is lovely and brings a point of difference to the usual story-rich JRPG. This game was released in 2024 and usually sells for about 75 Australian dollars, though it's currently 60% off at the time of recording. It is playable but not verified on Steam Deck, which is a little bit disappointing for this kind of game, as I feel like this would lend really well to play handheld on the go. Over its lifetime, 100 Heroes has received mostly positive reviews, with 77% of all players recommending it. However, the recent reviews dip to a mixed 62%. Now usually when we see this, the publishers have broken the game in an update or added some ridiculous DRM, but I can't see that's the case here, so it's hard to know exactly why reviews are trending this way. Most positive reviews take the comparison to Suikoden, as it appears to be somewhat of a spiritual successor to the series, and praise the unique elements such as the range of heroes to use, of what makes a JRPG fun. On the negative side, many seem to suggest this game is relatively poorly designed and has off-putting pacing. I do like a good JRPG, but personally, I've failed to see what sets this one apart. I would try it if I had it, but I wouldn't go out of my way for it. Here we have yet another classic game enhancement by Aspyr. This time as 2002's Star Wars Bounty Hunter that was first seen on the PlayStation 2 and GameCube, but now is back with the 2024 remaster treatment. This third-person action adventure puts you in the helmet of Jango Fett, giving you a range of weapons and gadgets to use in combinations with your great acrobatic proficiency to hunt down and bring in those bounties. This takes place in a unique story, set about a decade before the events of Attack of the Clones, and so it has some license to introduce new characters and story elements from the Star Wars universe if that's your thing. Now this usually retails for $30 and also features in a couple of Star Wars bundles, including a collection of other remastered Star Wars classics. We have unfortunately just missed the May the 4th sales, which most likely would have been a more cost-effective time to buy. The game is also Steam Deck verified, so you can play on the go. Reviews are mostly positive, with a lifetime rating of 85%, which tells us this is a good remaster of an already well-liked game. Though the general consensus is that it still shows its age, most reviewers praise the quality of the port, and most seem to appreciate the difficulty of the game, and praise the unique story and authentic voice acting. However, some believe that this remaster doesn't do enough to fix some of the glaring and aging issues of the now 23-year-old experience. I appreciate a good classic Star Wars game, but I have no nostalgic attachment to this one, so I'm not sure this remaster does enough to really compel me to get on board with it now. Another one that went completely under my radar. Ultros is a 2024 Metroidvania game that can only be described as psychedelic. And based on the description of the game, which states that you wake up on a cosmic uterus containing an ancient demonic being, I can kind of see why. A beautifully presented 2D platformer, Ultros features stunning visuals and smooth fluid movement as you traverse from screen to screen in what appears to be a slick, trippy Super Metroid analogue. This game is Steam Deck verified, and if I owned a deck myself, this is the kind of game I'd be absolutely loving on it. The game usually retails for about $40, and the deluxe edition goes for about $55. Ultros boasts an 80% positive rating on Steam, with a few common themes amongst the reviews. Most prominently, players tend to agree that they have no idea what the hell is going on in this world, and that appears to be by design, as there is some replayable element to the game that slowly reveals more and more of the story and world building. Eventually, you learn enough for the game to click, and only then can you seem to truly appreciate it. I won't elaborate on this any further, as it seems like the kind of experience you won't want spoiled. All I can say is, stick with it for the challenging and confusing first half, and the second half will be very rewarding. This one seems too interesting to miss. Finally, we have Corpse Keeper, and this is a confusing game. At first glance, it appears to be a mid-1990s fighting game, with two large figures on a 2D plane awkwardly flailing and flinging combat moves at each other. And as far as the combat goes, that might be true, but it's also an action RPG, and it's also a roguelike. Plus, it's designed to be very challenging. You lead your crew of living corpses to explore the world, pick fights and raise an undead army, with your ultimate goal of defeating a demon that has taken residence deep in a cathedral. Corpse Keeper was released in 2024 and retails for about $30, and it is Steam Deck playable but not verified. The game currently has a mostly positive rating of 76%, and it's difficult to get much of a consensus from the reviewers. Some love the combat, some hate it, some find it too unforgiving, some find it becomes too easy. One thing that most people can agree on though, is that despite its flaws and frustrations, the game is genuinely fun. I get the feeling that if you like the gameplay footage of this game, you'll probably like it, and I'd be very keen to give this one a go.
Bummer.
And there you have it, 8 games included with the humble choice in May 2025. At first glance, my immediate thought was instant skip. However, after diving into each of these games, I found a few interesting and unique experiences that I feel like I could really enjoy. No games this month are rated negatively, and all are provided as Steam keys, so it does seem like Humble are listening to feedback and are trying hard to provide quality offering month after month. While a lot of games this month won't be to everyone's taste, and this month lacks a real broad appeal like the last month did, I think this bundle will provide fantastic value to the right audience. However, I'm not convinced that I am that audience, at least in this point in time. And with that, we'll wrap up my Special Pass review of the Humble Choice bundle for May 2025. I hope you found this video to be useful in summarising what's on offer and deciding whether this bundle is for you or not. As always, the format of this series is continually being refined, so feel free to let me know what you liked and what you didn't like in the comments below. I'll be back with another Special Pass next month, and I'll continue to cover a range of games in between, including my ongoing series of the fantastic Adamfall, so please consider subscribing and sticking around for more. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.